IOM Radio Network, the world's conscious broadcasting network. Live on iTunes and archived on iHeartRadio, the voice of consciousness. And now, join Shay Parker's Best of the Best, offering celebrity guests, lively discussions, hot topics, free psychic readings, and expert guest hosts. Simply the best in spiritual and metaphysical talk radio. Listen live on your phone or device using our universal mobile player. No app needed. Shay Parker's Best of the Best. Find out more at bestamericanpsychics.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rock Girl Unleashed, Empowering the Wild Within. It's Allison Hayes here, and if you guys are just tuning in for the first time, you can find me at therockgirl.com, therockgirl.com, and I also have another website, which is sacredstoneschool.com. And both of them have had a facelift lectly, so even if you have seen the websites, tune in and check it out. TheRockGirl.com is really about my psychic services and lectures, speaking, that kind of thing. And, of course, Sacred Stone School is all about stones and all about school. So do stop by for a visit. You can also join me on Facebook. All you have to look for is the Rock Girl Sacred Stone School, the Rock Girl Sacred Stone School. And I'm there on Facebook. And I would love to have you join the page and contribute and just be part of the collective energy. We like to keep it positive on that page. Lots of fun, positive, uplifting, forward-moving posts. So do stop by for a visit. I'm just looking on there now. And we're looking at the spring flowers. Isn't that lovely? All right. So a couple of things. We, meaning me, myself, and I, will be going on the Intuition Cruise, April 9th through the 15th. I can't believe it's here already, April 9th. Oh, my God, I think it's like a month from today I'm leaving. Yikes. Anyway, that's exciting, but it's also daunting because I haven't packed yet. But we will be going to the Mayan Riviera. It's called the Intuition Cruise because there's a bunch of other psychics on the cruise. We'll be doing lectures, workshops, and taking people ashore to the Cayman Islands, Cozumel, and Costa Maya for onshore excursions. John Holland's going to be there, Lisa Williams, Colette Barron-Reed, Denise Lynn, and so many more people that are working in the intuitive realm, including myself. Yay. All right, so that covers the kind of newsy kind of things that are happening. And what we're going to talk about tonight is karmic contracts. Karmic contracts. You know, there's so much metaphysical talk out there about all kinds of stuff, including karma. You know, we talked about karmic debt and karmic contracts, and a lot of times, you know, good karma, bad karma, that kind of thing. But I really want to take an in-depth look at it tonight, and I want to examine what the word karma is, what the word dharma is, and, you know, see how that applies to each of us individually as well as collectively. All right. So what is the difference between, let's just define karma and dharma. Then we're going to go into the contracts and the debt and the grace and all that other stuff. Who knew that karma had so many different components, right? So we traditionally know karma as, I guess, juju or energy. Like if you do something good, you get good karma. If you're doing something rotten, you get rotten karma. Like, oh, you know, karma will get you. So what is this karma? I like to describe karma as the energy that we have accrued during this lifetime and others. So it's the soul energy that we have accrued. You know, in this lifetime, if we're lucky, we'll live to 90 years old. So we are accruing karma as we're living through this lifetime. But a lot of times people say, well, you have bad karma. And perhaps you haven't done anything in this lifetime to accrue bad karma. You could have done some things in other lifetimes that have not been so great, and therefore you've accrued some bad karma. On the other hand, you may have done nothing good in this lifetime, but you come in blessed, and it's because of all the good karma that you have accrued in past lifetimes. So just because, it's not happening right now doesn't mean that you don't have a karmic history. And I always like to say a lot of people in the metaphysical world, especially those who come to my school, they have concerns about their karma, their energy imprints over not only this time and last time. So it's the energy that you have accrued from this lifetime and others. And it's not all bad, and it's not all good. There's really a mixture, and it's really what you do with it. And I always like to tell my students and my clients, just because it's in your karma doesn't mean you have to keep it. I'll say that again. Just because it's in your karma doesn't mean you have to keep it. It doesn't have to be another life sentence. You can do things to release karma, to renew it, to reset it, to renegotiate it. And we're going to get into all of those details after the break at 8:15. And so it is not a prison sentence. It is not a life sentence. It is not a death sentence. The key to karma, folks, is being able to recognize it. We are human beings. We're living in this lifetime. We have a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual plane in this lifetime. And really, the key to energy work is to really getting to know your own energy. And then, I like to study energy in general at first. And then that's in the intro classes of my school. Let's talk about energy. What is it? So on and so forth. The energy of stones, the energy of Reiki, the energy of psychic development, the energy of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual planes. Let's take a look at it. Let's learn the difference. Let's peel it apart. Let's examine it, all right? And then once we understand energy in general, then we can get to know our energy, and then we can get to know other people's energy, and so on and so forth, all right? So with that said, karma can be baggage from other lifetimes, and it also can be gifts from other lifetimes, all right? So karma is not all bad, and it's not all good. It's an amalgamation, okay, of your energies. And what you want to do is get to know your energies and what they are saying to you. And are there karmic patterns from past lifetime that are repeating in this lifetime? Are they good or are they bad? Do you want to keep them? All right? And if you do, what can you do to keep them if they're great? And what can you do to release them if they're not so great? All right? All of that is coming up later on in the show. So let's talk about dharma. All right? You've heard about karma. I mean, we have talked about karma a lot, and it's also a word that has made it into the mainstream today. But a lot of people, either they don't hear about the word dharma or they don't use it nearly enough. Dharma is your potential of what you can reach in this lifetime and others. So it's untapped potential. It's untapped energy. Now, there is no bad or evil dharma, all right? There's only potential of good. Well, actually, let me rephrase this. Dharma is the potential that you can reach in this lifetime and others. It's the good potential, all right? Dharma means that it is encoded. The energy pattern is encoded either in this lifetime or others to reach your greatest potential in doing something or just being something. You could be an amazing mother. Your dharma in this lifetime could be to be an amazing mother, to be an amazing animal rescuer, okay, to be an amazing musician, an amazing artist, an amazing business person. Okay? It doesn't have to be something incredibly metaphysical. It just means to be the best that you can be, right? So that is your potential. And one of the things we're going to talk about later in the show is how can we find that out and what can we do to access it, all right? And people can live their entire lifetime without even kind of waking up the Dharma. A lot of times if you live in status quo, if you live within the box, if you live within your comfort zone, that's a nice life. It's not a bad life, right? It's not full of strife and struggle. However, being in that comfort zone, you may not be so inclined to work a little harder and reach your Dharma. And I know personally from my own life that it has been the trials and tribulations and the challenges that I have had to muster up the courage and the strength to face that helped me gently stumble upon my Dharma in certain areas of my life. So that was a nice little gift. And so Dharma is your potential to reach your greatest ability in this lifetime and others. So it's 8:14, and the commercial break is going to be coming up very shortly. And so I don't want to jump into another topic or further discuss this topic until we come back from break. There's that fabulous music, people. Don't go away. You might want to get a pen and paper because we're going to be talking about some good stuff. See you real soon.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Have you wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hi, this is Shay Parker, founder of bestamericanpsychics.com. If you are a professional psychic or medium and are looking for a group of like-minded individuals that are truly supportive of one another, Best American Psychics is the place for you. Or if you're not a psychic but you're in need of guidance regarding love, money, career, and more, please visit our directory. Each psychic is double tested and approved for accuracy, professionalism, ethics, and more. bestamericanpsychics.com, a new league of professional psychics.
So, I'm a dog, and I'm kind of new to this family, but I've noticed a trend. My humans do this thing where they go around and get all my toys and hide them in this basket. But it's always the same basket, and it's always the same place. And then they act so surprised when I find them. But I'm like, hello, that's where you put it last time. Humans are the worst at hide and go seek.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Hello, everyone. We are back to the Rock Girl Unleashed, Empowering Your Wild Within, and we are talking about karmic contracts today. And wherever you have karma, you also have dharma. Just to recap, karma is the energy that you have accrued in this lifetime and others, and dharma is the potential to reach your greatest ability in this lifetime and others, okay? So with that said, let's talk about the good stuff first. Let's talk about the dharma, the potential, all right? Dharma is the potential to reach your greatest ability or, the ability to reach your greatest potential, however you want to say that. And so, there's a lot of gifted people in this world. In fact, each and every one of us are gifted, okay? Or is gifted. I don't know what is grammatically correct there. Each and every one of us is gifted. Yes, there you go. Okay? So we all have amazing gifts. And I'm using the word gifts with an S because we're not just kind of in existence and maybe we have one special thing or no special thing. We are energetic beings and we have lots of good stuff. The question is, how do we tap into the good stuff? You know, throughout the ages, we have been conditioned by society, by, you know, our families, by religion, by corporations, and so on and so forth, all right, politics, to adhere to certain standards. And, you know, rules are great, guidelines are great. We all need them, right? We all need the double lines in the middle of the road so we know that some people are going this way and some people are going that way, all right? But we don't want to go to the extreme and just turn into robots or just people who are just following instructions, right? We want to take a look at ourselves. We want to get to know ourselves, get to know who we are on a personal, on a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual plane. We want to know personally, individually, and also how do we fit into the collective? How do we do that? And in order to do that, we have to know our energy, all right? Know thy energy. And again, how do you learn that? You study energy, and then once you understand the entire concept of energy, it's an easy formula to apply to yourself and others. And it's not even limited to people. It can be your pets. It can be your environment. It could be your work environment. It could be your home. Energy is everywhere, all right? And so that's important to know. And so your dharma, again, and I repeat myself during these radio shows so you don't have to stop and rewind, okay, to find what I just said or something that we discussed earlier, all right? So I like to repeat it and then kind of thread it into the next topic of discussion. So with dharma and reaching our greatest potential, we all have many facets of ourselves that contain gifts. And like I mentioned before the break, it doesn't have to be, you know, earth-shattering and you know, kind of saving the world. Because by saving yourself, you actually do help save the world, but that's another topic. However, just being really great at something is a hint that it could be some dharma that you want to explore, all right? And the ticket to being really great at something is being passionate about something. A lot of people call me, a lot of my clients and a lot of my students come to me and they've raised their family, they've got their dream job, they've bought their dream house, and they're still empty. And I often refer to that as spiritually starving. You've done everything that you should do. You've checked off of your bucket list. You've checked off your to-do list. You know, you have a beautiful family, a great job, an amazing home, and there's still something that you're yearning for. It doesn't mean that what you have is unfulfilling or it doesn't matter. It just means you may be missing one single ingredient, and that is passion. Passion is what keeps your soul alive. It's what feeds you, is passion. And let's just talk about passions. A lot of times, you know, interestingly enough, a lot of people limit passion only to a romantic relationship. I want passion in my life, and people think that the only place that they can get that is a romantic relationship. Now, don't get me wrong. Okay, romantic relationships are great, and there is passion in them. Oh my God, hello, addictive, right? How many of us have been lucky enough to experience that once or twice in this lifetime? But that's not the only source of passion, all right? I am extremely passionate about rocks. People know that. I'm extremely passionate about my horse. You know, some people know that, some people don't. I used to be incredibly passionate about my first cup of coffee in the morning until I stopped drinking it. And I stopped drinking it, no, not because it was bad for me. I actually enjoyed it. But because I travel so much, and often it's globally, that their coffee is different in every corner of the world. And some places it wasn't satisfying, and I got tired of being disappointed. So I switched to matcha, and I drink my matcha with me. Well, I drink my matcha every morning, and I take my matcha with me no matter where I'm traveling, so I still have a nice consistent kind of thing, because I am passionate about waking up in the morning, and I am passionate about my first cup of matcha. But I'll be honest with you, I was more passionate about my coffee than my matcha, but matcha's better than nothing, right? Exactly. However, I like to take my baths in the evening. So I'm very passionate about my baths in the evening. I actually get very excited, and I look forward to my baths in the evening. And so being passionate about something feeds your soul. And there's a little kind of test that I like to do. You know, when I was younger and I was in school and I had a test, how many times did you not feel good that day? How many times, did you want to come home from school with a bellyache? And, I did that all the time, and I realized I didn't like school. But it wasn't until I was an adult and I was out and I wasn't in school anymore that when I went to do something that I didn't like, I started not to feel good. And today I know myself, and I don't push myself to the point of not feeling good. My red flag is feeling tired. If I know that I'm getting my 8 hours a night sleep and my exercise and I'm not too stressed and I'm still feeling tired, it means I'm lacking passion. It means I'm doing something I don't want to do. So I have to really sit down and kind of sort it out. All right, am I tired today? Yeah, why? Because I have to do my taxes. Oh, well, the only way through it is through it, so I'll do my taxes because I have to, right? So some things we have to put on our big girl and big boy panties, and we have to do it. And the sooner we do it and the better we do it, the sooner it's over, right? Like paying taxes. But if I have to go out and here's a good one. If I have to clean my house, I get tired. I'm automatically tired because I know I have to clean my house. Well, at this point in my life, I would rather do a psychic reading and be really passionate about my psychic reading. Do you hear the change in my voice? I'm really, really passionate. I love my psychic readings. I love talking to people. I love connecting to the guides. I love the energy. What is not to be passionate about? Yes. So I'd rather do a psychic reading than clean my house. You hear the difference in my voice? So I decided that I will get a cleaning service to come in and clean my house once a week. And in order to pay for it, I need to do another reading a week. So I'm like, okay, well, I would love to do another reading a week, and I'd love to have a clean house. So it's a win-win situation. So by knowing how I feel, knowing my energy, I know that I don't really like to clean my house, and I don't have to because I could do something I like better. But I also know that when I'm tired and I don't want to do my taxes, I have to just buckle down and do them anyway. So that's a different way. That's a way to get to know your energy. If you're going out to dinner with your friends and you're really, really excited about it, that's feeding your passion. But if you're starting to get tired and you don't feel like doing it, you want to hit the pause button. You want to hit the pause button and say, hey, I'm kind of feeling a bit dreary here, and there's no reason to. So what is going on here? And then you think to yourself, oh, I have a bad case of the I don't want us, meaning I really don't want to go out tonight. Why is that? Is it because I don't really like my friend's husband because he's male chauvinistic, or they're talking about politics, or you just don't like his energy, or is it this restaurant you're going to that you don't like? So try and check in with yourself and find out, hey, am I not feeling good and feeling tired for a reason because I don't want to go? And then look deeper. Why is it that I don't want to go? And if it's because you just don't want to hang out with your friend's husband every Thursday night, then you're going to need to do something, because if you keep suffering through it, you're just going to lose more and more energy and waste more and more of your time. And if you're feeling blah about it, they're going to feel blah about it. And so you might as well just say to your friend, can we go out by ourselves or can we take a break? And, honesty is always the best policy because, we all know the truth anyway. And so you may not want to really handle the fact that you don't like your friend's husband, but at one point in time, why are you wasting precious time doing something you really don't want when you could be going to a yoga class? And I'm not saying, be selfish, but be true to yourself. There's a difference there, okay? And so those are some examples of how to sense your energy. What is your energy telling you? What is your intuition telling you? Because you know what? Listen, your energy and your intuition are always going to win. So the sooner you, A, understand the language, and B, make friends with them, the better off you're gonna become. And the more productive you're going to become, and the happier and more fulfilled in this lifetime you're going to become. And so, we're going to have to go to another break in just a few minutes. But when we come back from break, we are going to talk about your Dharma and, how to know that is this something dharmic? Is this something that you're really passionate about? And then what to do when you figure that out. What are the steps to achieve your Dharma? And then after that, we're going to talk about karmic contracts and how to handle those as well. Okay, it's 8:29. That music is coming up, which is drifting us off into a lovely commercial break. Folks, don't go away. We'll be right back.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Spiritual, metaphysical, green living, psychic, alternative healing, life coaching. Do any of these or similar terms apply to your business or cause? If so, you are in a niche market with a very specific audience. Conscious Gate PR is the world's leading conscious public relations agency. With a global reach of over 4 million and growing, we offer comprehensive media campaigns to our targeted market. Learn more at ConsciousGatesPR.com. Conscious marketing for conscious minds.
I wasn't prepared to be a caregiver to Mom. I had no idea how hard it would be and what I would need to know. Things I never thought of, like how to improve her mood and ways for me to stay positive. Luckily, I found the Caregiving Resource Center from AARP. It had articles about the basics, but also information about the hurdles I was facing.
Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving. Articles, tips, and tools to help you both care for your loved one and care for yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rock Girl Unleashed, Empowering Your Wild Within. We're talking about karma and dharma. And right before the break, we were talking about how to connect to your dharma and what to do about it. So we talked a little bit before about, kind of getting to know your energy, and that is the first step in accessing your dharma. And after you get to know your energy, what you like, what your energy likes, and what your energy doesn't, you're now beginning to speak the language of your soul. And really, it's your soul that can connect and access your dharma, okay? And so, like I said before, your part of your dharma could be to be the best mother in the entire world to your children. Part of your dharma could be an amazing opera singer. Part of your dharma could be an amazing animal rescuer. Part of your dharma could be to become an amazing president of a company. And part of your dharma could just be to be a good neighbor, all right? It doesn't, on the other side, on the soul level, they don't care how much money you make. They don't, it doesn't matter how many mistakes that you made. Like, we make mistakes all the time. Now, as long as you own your mistakes and do something to fix them. When I'm talking about mistakes, about hurting people's feelings or, making the wrong choices, things like that. We're not talking about like awful things like betrayal and deeply, deeply violating other people or the animals or the planet, okay? But you don't have to be perfect all the time to access your Dharma, all right? You don't have to go to confession, and you don't have to make sure that everything is perfect. I hurt people's feelings all the time. I miscommunicate. But it doesn't mean that that is going to be a strike against me in accessing my Dharma. It just means that I have to be aware that I can be abrupt or I can hurt people's feelings or miscommunicate and therefore take ownership of them and apologize and make every effort not to make that mistake again. So I don't, a lot of people are thinking, well, I have to do this and I have to do this and everything has to be in alignment and perfect before I access my Dharma. No, that's not true, okay? But what you want to do is start following the energy. You want to start following what feels good, what feeds your passion, what drives your soul. And for me, a long time ago, it was rocks. It was always rocks and animals when I was a young girl. It was always rocks and animals till 8th grade. And then I went to high school and I realized that it was weird to talk to rocks and to talk to animals. And I wanted to be like everyone else. And I kind of did. And then when I went off to college and I kind of felt lost and disconnected, and then I got back into the rocks, and I found my passion again, and, I ended up getting divorced over this. I wasn't paying my husband enough attention. We didn't have the same interests, blah, 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 blah. All I did was think about work, and we clearly disconnected. But I followed my passion, and here I am today. So, a lot of times when following your Dharma, you're going to have to make tough choices that take you away from mainstream. And it's not always so, but it can be the case. So following your Dharma is not a piece of cake, but when you feel that passion and that drive and that excitement, that is a telltale sign that is part of your Dharma. Now, what about these people who are these prodigies, these child prodigies, singers, golfers, Tiger Woods, look at all the opera singers and rock stars out there where they just kind of came out of the womb singing. Is that their Dharma? It's a gift. It is a gift that they came in with. And as they grow and develop on the soul level, if they can handle it, it can become their Dharma. But, Amy Winehouse, she died at a very young age. Look at Michael Jackson. Look at, Elvis. Look at all these people who have died early on from accessing their gifts. And perhaps, how do we say here? They came in with amazing gifts. And their Dharma was to use those gifts in a way that would be for the highest good. And so were they on their way to reaching their highest good and reaching their Dharma? Yes. But they didn't effectively completely do it because it wasn't in alignment with who they were, and they weren't doing it in a happy way, clearly. And so it doesn't mean that it was bad. It just means that they, they had some more work to do. And so the way it usually works on the other side is when they come back into another lifetime, they will have a chance to reconnect with that Dharma, or perhaps their soul will choose to kind of leave it be until another lifetime. And so your Dharma, your potential is there in every single lifetime. But it's up to us in the human form and the human consciousness to decide whether we want to make a choice to pursue that Dharma. So our Dharma and potential are always there, but it's our human right as a conscious human being to make a choice to actualize that. Does that make sense? I have had psychic gifts from when I was a very, very young girl, and at one point in time in this life, I made a conscious effort to pursue that. My mother and my sister are also very psychic, and my mother has since passed away. She passed away when she was 79, and was she highly psychic? Yes, but did she actualize it? No. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It was just her choice in this lifetime. And so, my sister is highly intuitive, and she chooses to exercise her intuition, but she doesn't choose to develop it into further psychic gifts. And that's not good or bad either. It just is where she's at, but she has the potential to do so. People have the potential to be amazing athletes, amazing parents, and so on and so on. So that is the Dharma. And you get to, it's interesting, as soon as you become aware of the fact that it does exist, you start seeing the many possibilities that you can choose to pursue. And a lot of times it has to do with timing. When I was in my 20s, pursuing becoming a professional psychic was not an option, but when I was in my 30s, the timing was right, and I was able to pull the trigger and move forward with that. So there's a lot of components that go in there, but those are the ingredients of finding out whether it's dharmic or not. Here's an example of what's not. When I got out of college, I wanted to go work for a corporation, and I thought that was my dharma. So I went to work for Citibank in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for a while, and it lasted 3 weeks. I went to work every day for 3 weeks, and the last day I just couldn't get up. And that was the energy just saying, no way, no way. And although I thought that that's what I wanted, I even went out and bought a nice little suit and a briefcase, and it just didn't work. The energy was just like carrying cinder blocks on my back every day when I went to work. And it was not my thing. And I was lucky I was able to figure that out early on in life and find something else to do. So that is an example of what you think might be your dharma, but it didn't work because energetically I just couldn't do it anymore. I remember that day. It was in June. I got out of bed June 21st. And I was like, I can't even stand up to get in the shower. I need to go back to bed. And I knew I wasn't sick. I was out of battery. I was out of charge. So that's an example of how it feels when it doesn't work. All right. So let's get into karma. All right. Now, karma is the energy that you have been accruing throughout this lifetime and others. Right. So it's really kind of, your kind of, what would you say, your baggage. And you can have good baggage and you can have bad baggage. And so a lot of people think that just because you have bad karma or karmic debt that you're just kind of facing this life sentence and just give up. No. Like I said, karma is the energy imprint that you have accrued within this lifetime and others. But within, or underneath, I should say, the karmic umbrella are karmic contracts, karmic debt, karmic grace, okay, and karmic creation. So what are karmic contracts? Karmic contracts are the agreements, the covenant that your soul has agreed to live out. All right? When I was married in this lifetime, I married someone, and I met him back in the 90s, and we were very much in love. And then I grew one way and he grew another, and it did not end well. And I really believe that it was in my soul's contract to kind of meet him in this lifetime and go through those exercises. And so I finished my contract with him, and we're done. Contracts are just that. When you sign a lease, you have a contract. If you sign a lease for a car, you have a contract. If you get a Verizon phone service, you have a contract. If you sign a lease for a house, you have a contract. So contracts have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So just because I was married to this person for X amount of years, I think it was 14 years, 15 years, then it was over. It doesn't mean I'm living a life sentence like that the rest of my life. And the ticket here is to know when the contract is coming to an end, right? So years ago when I moved to Asheville, I signed a year's lease for an office space. And the year came and went, and I didn't do anything, and it automatically renewed for another year. And when I went halfway into that second year, I realized, I want to move somewhere else. But I looked at my contract, and it said that it's for another year and that you have to give 3 months' notice. So I stayed in that office, and when it came to 3 months before the end of the contract, I wrote my notice, and I said, I do not want to renew this contract, and I want to be released from this agreement. And I was, and I moved somewhere else, and that's where my school is today. However, it's a perfect example of what you can do to karmic contracts, all right? So if you know your energy, and you know that it's a karmic contract, and a karmic contract is usually a repetition of some kind of pattern of energy. It could be having relationships where your boyfriend cheats on you all the time. It could be getting a job where you're fired all the time. It could be constantly being in revolving debt, all right? So, or it could be good. Like, I have really good karmic contracts when it comes to finding places to live. I have always been very lucky in finding great homes, great apartments, great office spaces. But I noticed that there was a repetition to that, a pattern to that. There's always been a 3 in the address, and it's always been by a river. But it took me until I was 43 years old to figure that out. But what I did was I sat down and I followed my energy and followed what felt good. And then I also started to look and write down the places that I've lived and where they're located. And that's how I realized it, which is pretty cool. Now, it's 8:44. We're going to be going to another commercial break soon. And when we come back, we're going to continue talking about karmic contracts. Here's the music, folks. Don't go away. Bye-bye.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
I'm Paul George of the Indiana Pacers. When I was 6, my days were spent playing basketball. When I was 6, my dream was to make it to the NBA. When I was 6, my mom had a stroke. So I want you to learn to spot a stroke fast. F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. I'm Paul George. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Hello, everyone. We are back to the Rock Girl Unleashed, empowering your wild within, and we are talking about karmic contracts. Okay, so before the break, we were talking about learning the patterns or getting to know your energy patterns. And if you have an energy pattern that keeps repeating, it's probably a karmic pattern. all right? And just because it's in your karma, you don't have to keep it. Just realize that, hey, this is a contract, and then be very, very aware of when the contract is ending. And then you can choose to renew it, renegotiate it, or release it. Again, renew it, renegotiate it, or release it. Now, the big question is, all right, well, how do we know we're in a karmic contract? Well, we just talked about that. It's a repeating pattern that continuously shows up in your life, whether it's in relationship, jobs, environmental conditions where you're living, location-wise and so on, okay? Or that's how to identify whether it's a pattern or not. The next question is, how do you know if it's coming to an end? And then, how do I know? Well, let's take my lease in office space down here in Asheville. I signed a lease the first year, and I was like, la, 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 and I didn't pay attention. I just went right through my kind of last day of the contract, and I rented it on June 1st, and then by next May 31st, I was like clueless, and I just kept going, and the contract automatically renewed. And it renewed for a whole year. If I had known better and if I had paid attention, I would have renegotiated that contract and gone month to month, okay? But I wasn't paying attention. A lot of us don't know what our karmic contracts are because we're not familiar with their energy. And once we do, we don't know when it's coming to the end because we haven't read the fine print. How do you read the fine print in karmic contracts? You follow the energy, right? You know when something feels like it's coming to an end. In my marriage, for God's sake, I knew it was coming to an end. It wasn't working. We were fighting. We were disconnected. And we just didn't care, So I knew that it was coming to an end. And what did I do? I kind of just let it. I just tried to ignore it. I didn't pay attention to the signs. And I should have said, hey, the energy is waning here. Let me take a look at this. Let me sit down with my husband and put all the cards on the table. And it didn't work because I didn't pay attention and I didn't say, hey, I want to take a closer look at this. And it just ended badly, and it was drawn out for at least 5 more years than it should have. And now that I look back on my life, I wish that I would have that 5 years back and I could be doing something else with it. So when the energy starts to taper out, when things start to disconnect, and I don't mean, every time something is yucky, end your relationship, or every time something doesn't feel good, quit your job. What I'm saying is if you are having obstacles and challenges in your relationship or in a job and you still have passion for it, if it still gets you really mad, being mad is a type of passion, okay? So it may not necessarily be the end. It may mean that you need to renegotiate something within your karmic pattern, okay? So that is an example of renegotiating it. Say you're in a relationship and you're fighting and, things aren't going well, but you still have the passion there. You can say, hey, let's sit down and renegotiate this. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't want to completely end this contract, but let's end what's not working and kind of bring in new stuff that is. So that's a really good example of renegotiating a karmic pattern. So if you date someone who constantly cheats on you and you're kind of sensing you are now in another relationship and it's kind of feeling kind of funky, you may want to say, hey, I have this karmic pattern of getting into relationships where someone cheats on me. I'm feeling that things kind of are a little wonky. What's going on with you? And they may say to you, yeah, I'm kind of feeling like you're not paying attention to me, so maybe I should be dating someone else. So that can give you the choice to say, wait a minute here, let me reshuffle my priorities and make more time for my boyfriend, okay? Or you can say, you know what, you're right, I don't have a lot of time right now because I'm really into my career, so maybe we should kind of end this relationship. And either way, you're exploring your options and making a choice of whether to renegotiate and stay in this relationship and make the necessary changes or release it. But you're not repeating the karmic contract of that person cheating on you because you didn't let it get that far, because you were aware that something was awry. All right? So that is an example of either renegotiating a karmic contract or releasing it. Another example, okay, another example of, releasing a contract is, say that you have a job where you constantly get in a situation where you're either bored or you don't like it, or you're working with, people that you find toxic. Instead of just going on and on and on like that, when you're feeling that things are not working, then you can figure out why they're not working and start looking for another job. That would be consciously releasing a karmic contract, right? So instead of getting to the point where you just can't stand your job anymore, you can say, I'm kind of feeling the energy shift. I am going to use this awareness to search for another job and move on. And in that way, you'd be releasing yourself from that karmic contract way before it gets ugly to become another pattern. So that's another example. All right. And then let's talk about renewing your karmic contract. Say that you are very lucky in finding great places to live. I am. It lands in my lap, and I am aware of it, and therefore I take full advantage of it. But years ago, when I was 43, I'm 50 now, so that was about 7 years ago, I realized, oh my gosh, every place that I've ever loved living, I've had a 3 in the address, and it happens to be by a river. And oh my gosh, it's basically, there's a road that's very close to me that has the word river in it. So I have lived in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. I have lived in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I have lived in Lambertville, New Jersey. I have lived in Hoboken, New Jersey. I've lived in Manhattan, and I live in Asheville. Well, I realized that every single place, again, that I lived, there was a number 3 in the address, and there was a river, and there was a road. In New Hope, Pennsylvania, it was River Road. In Hoboken, it was River Road. In Manhattan, it was Riverside Drive. And weirdly enough, in Asheville, it's Riverside Drive. And I didn't consciously pick it. I was just drawn to that area. And then I found someplace I wanted to live, and I signed the contract. But lo and behold, there is a 3 in every single address, and I'm by a river. And railroad tracks. Isn't that funny? Railroad tracks. So now when I end up looking for space, and if I have a decision to make, I always say, is there a 3, is there a river, and is there railroad tracks, and is there a river road or Riverside Drive? And sure enough, there is. And so that is me renewing my karmic contract, is that it's working for me, and I'm conscious about it, and there's patterns, and I am going to consciously validate those patterns by making those choices. So that is another example. A lot of people are just lucky in love, believe it or not, and they make choices based on certain patterns, and they choose to renew those patterns as they kind of experience one relationship and another, whether it's romantic, friendship, relatives, and so on. So that, if it's in your karma and you want to keep it, you can. The best thing to do is consciously validate that and actively renew that contract. So that's a good thing. Okay, we have a few minutes left, and we're going to talk about the difference between karmic debt and karmic grace. Karmic debt is something that you accrued either from this lifetime or another lifetime by accruing bad energy. In another, somebody came into, I know one of my clients had karmic debt in this lifetime, and they were literally all in debt because they went out of their last lifetime because they had they made a bunch of negative choices, and they ended up paying for them literally in monetary value in this one. And so that is karmic debt. And what do you do about karmic debt? How do you clean it up? You pay attention to the energy. You realize that it's a contract, and when the energy starts to wane, you start to make different choices. So karmic debt means that you're still paying off bad juju from another lifetime, or you're accruing bad, karmic debt in this lifetime by doing crappy things, lying, cheating, all of the murdering out there. I mean, that accrues karmic debt. And so say you came in with good karma, but you've done some awful things, you're going to go out and you're going to start your next lifetime in debt. But if you're feeling that you're in karmic debt in this lifetime, know that if you follow the energy and pay attention to when the contract date is expiring, you can choose to release it, renew it, or renegotiate it. Okay? Why you would want to renegotiate karmic debt, I don't know. But again, it's always an option. Let's talk about Karmic Grace. Karmic Grace is called paying it forward. It means that you've had good karma in this lifetime and or last lifetime. Perhaps you did some amazing things in your last lifetime, and you come into this lifetime and things are pretty easy for you. That is Karmic Grace, and of course you would choose to renew that. All right, folks, it looks like the show is coming to an end. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, and we will see you next month. Signing off, it's the Rock Girl. Be good to yourself and be good to your stones. Good night, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for Shay Parker's Best of the Best. Be sure to tune in next week for more lively discussion topics. Have a great week, and don't forget to check out bestamericanpsychics.com in case you need some professional, ethical, and accurate psychic advice from the nation's best psychics.